guys, I thought I'd let you know before we roll into this video that I have for you today. Any and all cards that I am showing in this video or any one of my vintage card videos are all for sale. I would much rather sell them to my subscribers than I would list them in an auction. So if you're interested in any of these cards, please let me know and we can definitely work together to get a price. If you're interested in them, just throw a comment in the comment section down below this video and I will reach out to you and we can connect and work something out. So with that said, let's go ahead and roll into today's Vintage Wednesday video. Thanks guys. What's up guys? Welcome to another edition of K Cards Baseball. Thanks for joining me tonight on this wonderful Wednesday evening, wherever you might be. It is in fact Wednesday evening, and that means it is time for another Vintage Wednesday. Tonight we're going to kind of change it up a little bit. We're going to talk football rather than the usual baseball cards. The only baseball cards I had to cover tonight were 1973 Topps, and I made a video about that last week, so I didn't want to be redundant, and I thought I would change it up and roll into some football. I don't know exactly when I'm going to be putting these cards up for auction. It will probably be next week. I will keep you guys updated once that becomes available. I would say latter part of next week, but I'll let you know next week on the Vintage Card Wednesday video next week. What I'm going to do is go over these 1970 Topps cards and the 1971 Topps cards and talk a little bit about the condition of the cards, a little bit about the price, and we will see where we go from there. Most of these cards are going to be not in as good a shape as most of the baseball cards that I've been covering lately. Some of these cards will be creased. Some of them might be creased rather significantly. Most are going to be in that good to very good condition. Not necessarily in excellent condition. Maybe a few, but definitely no near mint to mints or high-end type of cards in these particular sets. Some kind of make me sad a little bit because if they were in a little bit better shape, they'd be worth a significant amount more money. But it is what it is. But it's just kind of exciting to look through them, and there are definitely some cool legend cards in this set. First up, we're going to talk 1970s, and most of these ones are going to be commons, which are generally going to sell for 25 cents in that area. Bob Trumpy, for example, on this first card, actually a pretty nice card of Bob Trumpy. No creases on either one of these cards. Centering is actually pretty decent. The backs are pretty good. If you aren't familiar with 1970 Topps, this is what the back looks like on them. But these cards are pretty decent, I would say. So these cards are going to be in that 40-cent range for something like that. John Brody, who was the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers for quite some time. A couple of cards of his. Centering issues. This one's got a crease in the bottom right-hand corner. You can kind of see it right there on the old camera. This one's got a centering issue both left to right and top to bottom. Harold Jackson, a very good tight end or wide receiver for the Eagles for a long time. Darryl LaMonica, a famous quarterback for the Raiders. They were the Oakland Raiders at that particular point. He was a pretty good quarterback, not too bad. This card is mangled, basically. I would put this in poor condition, so it'll be like a 10-cent card. I don't even know if I'm going to even sell it. When I go through and sell cards, I really have a hard time selling them if they are in poor condition. This Darryl LaMonica card, even though it doesn't have any creases, it has a pinhole right there on the top of the card. And that is a pretty common problem with some of these cards, unfortunately. I don't even know if I'm going to sell those cards at all. It's tough for me to sell them in when they're all mangled like that, to be honest. Going through a lot of these cards, I'm not going to go through each one in particular because we would be here all night. Jack Snow was a good player for the Los Angeles Rams for quite some time. Centering on the card is obviously an issue with basically no top of the card. Ben McGee, John Mackey for the Colts was a good player. tight end for the Colts for a long time. That's when they were the Baltimore Colts before they moved to Indianapolis. Leroy Jordan, John Mackey again, Jim Hunt. Matt Snell was a really good running back for the Jets for a long time. Led them to a World Championship or a Super Bowl under Joe Namath. Dave Wilcox. And I just want to kind of give you guys an idea what kind of condition that these ones are in. Most of these actually aren't too bad, to be honest, on these 71 cards. I remember having these cards when I was a kid. Too bad these aren't my cards. These are someone else's that I'm selling for them. Norm Snead, quarterback for the Eagles at the time. And Larry Brown. Otis Taylor was a good wide receiver for the Chiefs. And that is the first little run here. Page through the rest of these. Again, just looking at it, here's a big gum stain on this one, or wax stain. And let's see what else we got. Leroy Jordan, Larry Stallings, Norm Snead again, Randy Johnson. I don't remember Randy as a quarterback for the Falcons. And that is John Mackey again. That is pretty much it. Harold Jackson again. Mel Renfro, I saw him there. Good defensive back for the Cowboys. Jim Turner, kicker for the Jets. I remember a lot of these players when I was a kid, for sure. These ones are, look how mangled. Won't be able to sell that card, and this one's got some funky writing on it. Larry Stallings on the 70. Yeah. So, anyways, you can get an idea. Like I said, most of those cards are going to be in that very good condition. I will probably filter them out and remove the ones that are mangled like that and not go over those ones. These 71s right here. These are kind of cool cards, but similar to 71 Topps Baseball with the colored borders. It is hard to get these cards in very good, or in a really good grady condition. Mercury Morris, Darryl LaMonica again. John Brody again. 3 John Brody cards. These ones are kind of cool though. I thought that they were kind of funky, especially with this little dude here in the bottom right hand corner on a lot of these. I thought that was kind of a cool way to picture these cards. There's a cool looking middle linebacker. I like that picture more than usually the picture of the actual player. Leroy Jordan was a good middle linebacker for the Cowboys in the early to mid 70s. Manny Sistrunk, I remember him with the Redskins for sure. Bob Lurtsema with the Giants. He went on to become bench warmer Bob with the Minnesota Vikings, and still to this day in Minnesota, he is kind of a legend. Everybody knows bench warmer Bob. Still around. John Hadle, Craig Morton for the Cowboys. Joe Kapp, he was actually a quarterback for the Vikings after Fran Tarkenton left here and went to the Giants. Roman Gabriel was a good quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams. This card is absolutely trash. Unfortunately, can't sell that at all. Floyd Little was a good running back for the Broncos. Walt Garrison, running back for the Cowboys. Mel Renfro, Cowboys. Any Cowboys back then were always really good. Bubba Smith. Is he in the Hall of Fame? I'm not sure. You guys can let me know, but this one's got a big mangle up here in the upper left-hand side. And Freddie Cox, who was a longtime kicker for the Minnesota Vikings. One interesting fact that I bet that you guys don't know about Fred Cox, he is actually the guy that invented the Nerf football, is Fred Cox, and he made a lot more money off of that than he ever did playing football for the Vikings. Gene Washington was a good wide receiver for the Vikings for a long time. Terry Hanratty with the Steelers before Terry Bradshaw came around. Buck Buchanan Ed Shockman. I always like calling out the Vikings. Bob Lilly was a good defensive tackle for the Cowboys. Norm Snead, Gary Kuzo. Boy, the Vikings used some really different quarterbacks in that time that the Fran Tarkenton was at the Giants. Gary Yepremian, one of the most famous kickers for the Miami Dolphins in all those Super Bowl years, and also he was the kicker during the perfect season for the Miami Dolphins. Jan Stenerud is actually a Hall of Famer. That's actually a nice card of Jan Stenerud. It's got a few scratches on the surface. Centering is off a little bit. But, yeah, Hall of Famer. I'm going to set him aside because he's a Hall of Famer. And Larry Brown again. And a few more to go over in the 1971 set. Yeah, I just really like these pictures in the bottom corner. I don't know why. Gus Otto. Walter Johnson. Jim Hart with the Cardinals. Was quarterback for the Cardinals for quite some time. Calvin Hill, running back for the Cowboys. And that is pretty much it. Gary Yepremian again. Nice card of Gary Yepremian. He is not in the Hall of Fame. Alrighty, I kind of wanted to get through that so we can get into the really good cards out of this set, and these are all going to be Hall of Famers. First, we're going to talk about the 1970 ones. These ones are going to be worth a little bit more money. Jan Stenerud, who we just talked about, this card actually is in pretty decent shape. Lance Rensel, Hall of Famer. This card is a mess. I don't even know if I can really sell it. Bart Starr. This Bart Starr card I am going to be asking $10 for. It is in pretty decent shape. The centering on it left to right is a little bit off. And the centering top to bottom is a little bit off, but there aren't any significant creases on it. There is one slight crease in the bottom right there. You can kind of see it in the camera. The back is in good condition. Not bad centering on the back. But Bart Starr, obviously Hall of Famer and legendary Packers quarterback. Led them to NFL championships in the early 60s, or mid-60s I should say. Darryl LaMonica, not a Hall of Famer, but I've stuck him in here because he was a very good and legendary quarterback back then. Not sure why he never made it to the Hall of Fame, because he was a really good quarterback. But this card I put in here because it is in really nice condition for a 1970 card. Centering on this card is pretty decent left to right on top and top to bottom. Next up we got the legendary O.J. Simpson card. I have this one for sale for $15. The reason why it's not a little bit more is that there is a significant crease right across the whole middle of the card, almost like it was folded in half at one point. The back has got the same issue, even though the crease really doesn't come through all the way to the back. The back actually isn't in too bad a shape. A slight stain right here on the cartoon. O.J. Simpson has made numerous TV appearances. Obviously, after his playing career, he would make numerous more for good and bad reasons, as we all know. A young-looking juice. He was obviously a legend back then. Fran Tarkenton, in his Giants days, this card is in really good condition, or I would actually put this in very good to excellent condition. Centering on it, top to bottom and left to right, is actually pretty decent. The corners are a little bit dinged up, particularly the bottom left right there. The back is in really nice condition as well. This must be like a training camp with all the trees in the background, but there aren't any significant creases on the card at all. There is a slight wrinkle across the middle of the card, but not a significant issue on that one. This Fran Tarkenton card is not in as good a shape on the centering of it. It is a little bit more off-center than the last one, and this one does not have any creases on it, but it is just a centering issue on this card. The back is in decent shape other than centering on the top to bottom of this card. No pinholes in it, which is good. And Joe Broadway Joe Namath, obviously a legendary quarterback for the Jets. Really cool card of Joe Namath here, a Super Bowl champion. A little bit ding in the upper left-hand corner. There aren't any creases on this card at all. I will be asking $10 for this Joe Namath card, maybe a little bit more. There is a slight issue. I don't know what this is, if it's a printing flaw on the 2 of the number 12 for him. It's too bad that he had such bad knee issues later on in his career, because he could have been kind of shortened up his career a little bit, but still a Hall of Famer for sure. The 1971 cards, first up, I will be just covering mostly Hall of Famers here. Alex Karras went on to become a movie star, best known for Blazing Saddles, probably. Centering on this card is actually pretty decent, left to right and top to bottom. There is a flaw in the upper right-hand corner of the card. The back is in really nice shape, but yeah, that is the Alex Karras card. Jan Stenerud, nice card here. It has got some rounding in the upper right-hand corner. The corners are actually pretty dinged up, but there isn't any significant wrinkles on the card. The back is in a little bit of rough shape. I don't know, this looks like an old rubber band that dried up and is stuck to the back, but it just comes off. I'll be able to take the rest of that off. Paul Krause, probably a little bit of a lesser known Hall of Famer, but he was a heck of a safety for the Vikings. I think he still holds the record for the most interceptions by a safety at 81. I think, God, I forget how many he had in his rookie season, but definitely a Hall of Famer. He was an excellent safety for a very long time. Next up, Lance Allworth, a long-time wide receiver for the Chargers, Hall of Famer, was a legendary, look at those yardages. Back then when you had, 12 games, I think that they played back in the mid-60s, and he was getting 1,600 yards in 12 games when they didn't pass nearly as much as what they do now. 1,205, 1,235, 1,312. That's unbelievable. Incredible run for him. Was his nickname Crazy Legs? I can't remember. But anyways, he was a great quarterback, great wide receiver for the Chargers for a long time. Bobby Bell, ex-Minnesota Gopher Bobby Bell, was a legendary linebacker for the Chiefs for sure for a long time. This card, centering left to right and top to bottom, isn't that great, but there isn't any creases on the card at all, and that is that card. Fred Biletnikoff, let me go down here a little bit so we can kind of talk about it a little bit. Fred Biletnikoff, I think I've got this for $3. Slight wrinkle or crease up here in the upper left. No other creases on the card at all, just as a centering issue on the left or right. Another Paul Krause card. This one is in a little bit of a rougher shape, especially on the corners. This one definitely was probably put in pockets for sure, as a lot of these cards were put in kids' pockets back then, and that's why the corners are pretty dinged up. But there isn't any creases on this card at all. Mick Tingelhoff, Hall of Famer. Center, was my favorite Viking back in the day. This one's pretty creased up on the top and also on the bottom of the card. I'm missing the back. Gonna have to set that one aside. I don't know that I can sell it. We got a couple of Dick Butkus cards. Most people know who Dick Butkus is, linebacker for the Bears, legendary linebacker for the Bears. A crease in the upper left on this one. Other than that, the centering is pretty okay on it. I'd probably say 70-30 left to right, and also top to bottom. The corners are going to be dinged up, as most of them are. The back here is showing a little bit of a wax stain. So on this Dick Butkus, I would probably say $4. This one's going to be a little bit of a better shape. I do have this in the sleeve. I'll take it out of the sleeve. A little bit of a better shape, particularly on the corners. I have this one listed as $10. Centering on this card is actually pretty decent, left to right and top to bottom. The back is in really nice shape. So this is actually a pretty decent Dick Butkus card for $10. The Alan Page, poor condition, big crease across the top. Still to this day, the only defensive player to win MVP. Again, too bad on that, but still going to try and get $2 out of that card. George Blanda, I put him in here. I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer or not, but he was a legendary kicker and longtime quarterback. He almost played till he was 50. I mean, in this age, he was born in September of 1970 or 1927, so he was, 44 in 1971 when this card came out. Quite amazing. I think he played until his late 40s. A good player, actually, a pretty decent quarterback. Nice shape. Both the centering left to right and top to bottom is pretty decent. Willie Lanier. I do have this one in a sleeve as well, so I'll take it out of here. Decent card. Centering is bad left to right, 90-10. Top to bottom isn't too bad. Pretty decent on the back, but that is the Willie Lanier card. I do have this card for $4. Fran Tarkenton, again, I do have this one in very good condition, even though it does have a crease top to bottom there in the middle of the card. Centering out of the corners of this card are pretty dinged up, but this card for $4 might be a little bit of a stretch. I've got actually 3 Gale Sayers cards here, and this one is, there's one here that's going to be a little bit less than the others. I think it's this one right here. Well, it's hard to say. They're actually all in pretty much the same kind of condition. The centering on this card is actually pretty decent. I have this one I have all 3 of these actually at $8, one at $6. I don't know which one of the 3 is going to be a little bit less. Maybe this one right here. I don't know. Centering on this card, left to right, 80-20. Top to bottom is actually pretty decent. All 3 of these cards are actually pretty decent. There's no major creases on any of these cards at all. It is just going to be corner issues a little bit. And the back is in good condition on all 3 of these cards as well. So not bad Gale Sayers cards. Anytime you can get Gale Sayers at a reasonable price is a good way to do it. Bart Starr. The corners on this cards are pretty dinged up, even though there isn't any significant creasing on the card at all. The back of this card is in really nice shape. But yeah, that is the Bart Starr card. Joe Namath. Eek, pretty rough. You can see the bottom left-hand corner is pretty beat up. The back of the card is pretty rough. It looks like it was taped or glued at one particular point. Too bad on the Joe Namath. I don't know what I can get out of this card. What I got listed at? Heck, I've got it listed at $15. There's no way I can get $15 out of that. Anyways, the last card I want to talk about is this Terry Bradshaw. I'm probably going to leave this one in the sleeve because this is Terry Bradshaw's rookie card. Centering on the card is pretty poor. I'd say 95.5. Top to bottom isn't too bad. There is a slight ding in the bottom left-hand corner. All the corners are dinged up, but there isn't any creases on the card at all. So I'm asking $100 for the Terry Bradshaw rookie card. Pretty decent card overall for that particular year because we know that that was a really rough year for football cards with the colored borders, as we always have issues with colored borders and sports cards in general. Anyways, guys, that is what we got tonight. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this change of pace when it comes to talking sports cards and talking football. Please let me know what you guys think of any of these cards, or actually if you're interested in any of these cards, let me know. I'd be glad to work out a price with anybody out there on any of these cards. And you can let me know that. I'd rather do that than throwing them up at auction, to be honest with you. I'd rather sell them to my subscribers. So anytime I do one of these vintage cards deals, if you guys just send me a note in the comments if you're interested in any of them, and I will work it out with you in some way or another and try and get you a pretty good price on these cards. Thanks for joining me tonight, guys. Please hit that like and subscribe. It helps me out quite a bit. I would greatly appreciate it. Be safe out there, and happy collecting.